Listen, I'm Jared. I'm a Professor of Applied Design and Innovation here at Cardiff Met, obviously. And I want to explain today why every one of you is a designer, whether you know it or not, okay? And why thinking more like a designer, sometimes at least, might be the best thing you've ever done when it comes to work, or home, or sometimes even your personal life, okay? Now, in front of you, though, many of you at least, is a piece of paper. And while I'm rattling away for the next 8.5 minutes, you are going to hate me for this, I'd like you to have a go at drawing me, please. Okay? So it's not a joke. I'm serious. I don't care how good they are, right? But I want you to have a go at me. I want you to pay rapt attention to my every word. But I want you to draw me. And I'm going to move around, so it's going to be hard, but have a go, all right? So I run a specialist kind of research facility, I guess, here at Cardiff Met. It's focused very much around design innovation. It's extremely external, I suppose. It's very much focused on industry, organisation, society, making an impact on the outside world, I guess. More than 70% of that work is outside the UK. And I like to think it's a very powerful way of making sure that the outside world informs the research that we do, but just as importantly, the research that we do makes an impact and a difference to what the world wants outside, okay? Most people, though, just think we're slightly odd, if I'm honest, and if you ask around, you'll find that out. But to be clear, something's working in PDR. We've got a ridiculous amount of international design awards, more than 80 now. We're ranked #1 in the UK, have been since 2017. I think we're 7th in Europe, 13th in the world, something like that. And we work with all kinds of weird people, you know, with European Central Bank at the moment, the largest pharmaceutical company in the world, Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs, lots of little small manufacturers up the valleys, companies around the world. It's weird. And they obviously find something that connects what they do to come back to us. And I don't think it's design, okay? At least not design in the way that you guys probably think design is. I think most people think that it's sculpture, fine art, graphics, fashion design. And it is. It's all of those things, but it's not just those things, okay? I think that the thing that's the most important thing about designing, perhaps, is the way that they think, right? Thinking like a designer, which I suspect all of you also do when you let yourselves do it. Let me explain a little bit more. So when I was in school, Ogmore Comprehensive School, possibly one of the worst comprehensive schools in South Wales, shut now, turned it into like a young offenders institute, I guess, for a while, and then they closed it down. But it was a popular choice in my school to do design technology, okay? It was seen as an extension of woodwork and metalwork by lots of people, and it's where lots of more non-academic kids, myself included, went to learn a trade before, you know, society pigeonholed us off into, I don't know, running a lathe or something or working in Ford, okay? Now, I like making stuff. I think a lot of people like making stuff. And I liked designing stuff. So I went off to university and I did a product design degree, I did a master's degree in that, and I started working. I worked for 15 years before I came here. And what happened when I started working was I found myself creeping up the food chain in organizations, getting drawn into all these more complicated problems that weren't product design related. I'm a product designer. And then that led me off to other things. I did a post-grad marketing qualification, did an MBA and all that stuff. But it wasn't the knowledge that I wanted from those, it was the language, so that I could talk to other tribes within the companies that I worked in. And I realized one day that it wasn't, I realized one day that really my money, what I was earning, the value I was adding, wasn't all those degrees, really. It was something I learned one afternoon in that comprehensive school when I was 14 years old. And that was it. It was a 30-minute lesson, and I've lived off it ever since, okay? It's what they call the design process, what it was then. It's called other things now, lots of very complicated names for it. And that's the thing that connects companies that we work with as diverse as European Central Bank, General Electric, NHS, Logitech, Zero Waste Scotland, you name them. They all have this need to try to deal with complex, messy, difficult, unstructured problems, okay? And they don't know what to do. And that's where they come to us. So it's not about us necessarily drawing stuff, it's about us dealing with those things. Now, just to talk very briefly about that, so it was Rittel in 1972 wrote the paper about messy problems, but the way to think about them is you can't really describe the problem very well in the first place. There's never a single real answer, and they always, always, always have people at the center of them, okay? Those kind of messy, chaotic, random bags of fluid, I guess, that kind of get in the way of sensible, rational, logical answers to things, okay? Because it seems anything with people involved doesn't follow the rules of logic. Now, all those design technology students in school like me, all those graduates from the wonderful School of Art and Design over here, okay, across all the disciplines, if you see past the pictures, you see past the art, the models, the prototypes, the maquettes, everything that they're doing, you can see an underlying method of approaching difficult problems with no clear answers, of navigating through complicated, often conflicting priorities, unpicking, detangling kind of messy, interwoven perspectives. You see a way of dealing with human-centered problems, irrespective of the discipline they've studied at that point. And in many instances, and I saw it at the degree show this year, in many instances they've picked up this unconscious competency, this mastery of dealing with those types of problems, without often realizing the skills that they've got, okay? And I'll tell you briefly about that kind of, the fundamentals of this. I mean, it's not complicated, it's not difficult, okay? I hope you're still drawing, by the way. First of all, take a breath, actually work out whether the problem you're working on is the right problem and you understand it. Most of the stuff we do involves, or most of the mistakes that we see, involves people doing fantastic solutions to completely the wrong problem, okay? Giving yourself permission to step back and think about the problem in the first place. Is it the right problem for the right person? Set yourself on the right direction. Without that, everything else is wasted, okay? But then the core of this is this principle of convergent, divergent, prototype test kind of thinking, right? Where you don't just settle on one idea, stop, compartmentalize what you're doing, think of lots of possible solutions, not just the first one. When you've got a big bucket of them, then stop and be critical, and then start tearing them apart, curate them, narrow them down, and then repeat it. Take the ones you've narrowed down and be creative again. How can you make them better? How can you think of all the things that are rubbish with them, okay? And then do that again, and then at some point you're going to prototype them. You're going to write them down. If it's a play, you're going to scruff it out. If it's one of these, you might make a little prototype or something, or draw it. And then show it to people, get some criticism, and then repeat it. And just keep going back around that loop until you've got something more robust and which is more likely to answer the question. As I say, there's never a single answer on this. And I'd say fundamentally there are 4 core tenets to it. Thank you very much. I'm fine, 2 minutes left. Take time on the problem. Empathy. It's never designing for you, you're designing for somebody else. If you've ever used a ticket machine that an engineer's designed, you'll know exactly what I mean. Okay? Convergent, divergent thinking. Give yourself permission to be creative, and give yourself permission to be destructive in your thinking, and don't combine them at the same time, okay? And become comfortable with uncertainty. With not knowing an answer, trust in the process will get you there, okay? So I've been doing this for 30 years now. I'm obviously much older than I look. But the lesson from my teenage years, if anything, is more valuable now than it ever has been. And it underpins, the last time I looked, £125 billion creative industries economy in the UK. This is enormous. People don't talk about it, okay? As well as lots of clever businesses and everything else. And as a nation then, I don't get how we seem to be doing our very best to systematically undermine the incredible skill set we have in the UK. Okay, we're just trying our best to kill it off. And the reason I'm asking you to draw something is because I knew many of you would be horrified at the prospect of it. Okay, so Sir Ken Robinson famously, lots of other people, they've all pointed out how we've tried our very best to batter the creativity out of kids in school. And we have. We're scared that people judge us by what we do, right? Absolute trash. If this was a bunch of 7-year-olds, they'd be loving this now. They'd be drawing each other, they'd be showing each other the work, right? So it's an absolute tragedy then. The design technology students in school are becoming an endangered species. We're cutting the talent stream at source in the UK, and I just don't get it. Over the last 10 years, design technology teachers have halved, and the number of kids doing design technology in school has dropped by nearly 70%, 68%, okay? So I'm going to finish with 2 statements, I guess, or 2 asks of you. So one is, we should try and do everything we can to resurrect this problem in schools, as far as I'm concerned, okay? So the Design Council and a bunch of other people, ourselves included, have published a big paper to lobby the government at the moment, the next government, come Friday, about trying to address this problem, okay? And then the second issue on this, anything you can do to support that, please do. Second point on this, show the drawing you've done, for those who are brave enough to do them, to the person next to you. And try to remember, you haven't got to wear a black polo neck to be a designer, and you don't have to draw. Okay, thank you.